Taking place 15 years after the events of the first game, Dishonored 2 follows either Corvo Tano or Emily Kaldwin in their merciless journey to take back the throne from Delilah Copperspoon, the sister of Jessamine Kaldwin. The game starts during the anniversary of Jessamine Kaldwin's death, who is the mother of Emily. During the ceremony, Emily and Corvo discuss a crown killer who's been killing all of Emily's rivals in an attempt to frame the family for the murders. After taking a seat on the throne, Emily's informed that the Duke is bringing special gifts. Upon arrival, Delilah, who claims to be the sister of Jessamine, makes her grand entrance by taking her title of Empress from Emily, and has both Emily and Corvo arrested for the actions of the crown killer. Not going down without a fight, Corvo starts killing the guards until he's stopped by Delilah. The game then gives you the prompt to select who you'll play as. After choosing to play as Emily, because why wouldn't you play as Emily, Delilah turns Corvo to stone and sends Emily to her room for misbehaving. On the way to her room, Emily watches as Ramsey kills Alexei and then throws Emily into her room. Before leaving the room, Ramsey takes the ring off Emily's finger, which he says is used to open a safe room. After he leaves, Emily immediately jumps onto the window balcony and speaks with Alexei. Alexei informs Emily that there was a captain that wanted to speak with the royal protector and was waiting for him at the end of the dock. Needing the ring to enter her safe room in order to escape, Emily hunts down and kills Ramsey and steals the ring. After entering her safe room, Emily takes a gun, some bullets, and heads to the docks. By doing some awkward mirror's edge, Emily swiftly made her way to the docks. After speaking to Megan Foster, the captain of the Dreadful Whale, Emily decides to head to Karnaca in her ship. After waking up on the Dreadful Whale, Emily is brought into the Void where she's introduced to the Outsider. The Outsider offers Emily a mark that will grant her powers. After accepting these powers, because why would she ever turn them down, Emily starts swinging around the Void like she's Spider-Man. Along the way, Emily also picks up her mom's heart, which carries a portion of her soul in it. It seems a little obsessive, but we'll just go with it. Since Emily's new best friend misses her old best friend, Emily heads over to the Admire Institute to get answers on his whereabouts. After speaking with Alexandria Hypatia, you discover that Anton Sokolov, Megan's best friend, has been captured by Kieran Gindosh and that he stays in the Clockwork Mansion. After standing there for a couple minutes and doing nothing, Emily finally decides to just randomly attack Alexandria and discovers that she's the crown killer. So Emily bops her in the head and she dies again. Emily then disables a watchtower and leaves on the skiff with Megan. With the knowledge of where Sokolov is being held, Emily travels to the Clockwork Mansion to rescue Sokolov and kill Gindosh. After arriving to the mansion, she does exactly that and brings Sokolov back to the ship. After returning to the ship, Emily is then brought back into the Void, but this time by her aunt Delilah. Delilah then explains that the reason for her actions is to take revenge for the way her and her mother were treated when she was younger. After leaving the Void, Emily's mother confirms that the story is true and blames herself for the actions of her sister. After giving Sokolov time to recover, Emily asks Sokolov to explain how Delilah is invincible. Sokolov tells her that he has no idea and that maybe Delilah's friend Brenna Ashworth will know more. So, with that information, Emily heads to the Royal Conservatory and kills her. To uncover the reason behind Delilah's immortality, Emily must travel to Aramis Stilton's mansion and uncover what happened there years ago. To open the door that stands between her and the mansion, Emily must solve a riddle. I guess Emily wasn't really ever good at riddles because rather than taking the time to solve the riddle, she decides the best way to get the answers is to join a gang. The initiation to join the gang is to kill the opposing gang's leader. One death later, Emily has the answer key and is headed for the mansion. After sneaking into the mansion, Emily quickly kills Stilton while he plays the piano. She then gets a visit from the Outsider who gives Emily a gift that lets her travel through time. Jumping through time like she's a hunter blinking in destiny, Emily learns that Delilah hid a part of her soul in some statue. On your way back to the skiff, the Outsider pulls you back into the Void. In the Void, Emily learns that Delilah is a part of the Void and that the only way to kill her is to find her soul and put it back in her body. After catching her friends up on her new discoveries, Emily sets sail to the palace in order to kill the Duke and capture Delilah's soul. After killing the Duke and stealing his keys, Emily enters his vault where she finds a statue containing Delilah's soul. To store the soul, Emily uses her mother's heart and replaces her mother's soul with that of Delilah's. Emily then heads back to the ship to plan her attack on Delilah. After slashing her way towards the castle, the last thing between Emily and Delilah is an elevator with no power. After restoring power and running for her dear life back to the elevator, Emily finally reaches the throne room where she returns Delilah's soul back to her body. For some reason, she turns into Mario and jumps through a painting, so Emily enters the painting with her. In the painting, Delilah turns into Naruto and shadow clones herself a bunch of times. Emily responds by simply killing every clone in her sight until the real one finally dies. With Delilah dead, Emily jumps out of the painting and saves her father.